Hey, okay. Thanks for coming. I know you're busy, so thanks for making the time.
It's okay.
Just a bit of context for like people watching this. Like I've known you for a while now, like almost 10 years, which is crazy, but
Yeah.
okay, so like I know in school you were like really into photography and you had like considered design at one point, right? So
Yeah.
why did you end up choosing sport and rec for your degree?
Yeah, so I think I chose sport and rec because I could see more like career paths with it, as
Oh,
well
right.
as a huge thing or like a huge part about me that like maybe people might not know as much is that I do a lot of running and like train like 7 days a week kind of thing. And so I found I was getting really passionate about running and really passionate about sport, but just kind of wanting to like know more about like sport and exercise specifically, especially because I found doing running so beneficial for myself. I was like, that would be a really cool thing to be able to help other people with it.
Right.
As well as like design is very subjective, whereas
Yeah.
when you're studying like something like sport and exercise science, it's more, of course it's you individualize stuff,
Yeah.
so it's not
It's
generally like
all kind of,
textbook black and white, but it's
yeah.
not like
It's like
entirely
in a way like
conceptual,
you
you
can
know?
almost teach yourself design. Is that kind of like
Yeah, that, and just when you're marking stuff, it's really like the way it's laid out is
that's kind
really
of why
different.
like I stopped doing or like taking art as a subject because I was just like
Mm,
art is like so subjective and I'm like to me like how can you critique someone else's like you can't really give someone's work like a grade
yeah.
out of 10, it's like it's just so subjective.
Yeah, I feel that, as well as like when you're like, because with design I would like put all like my passion into it and it still wouldn't necessarily be like quite right or in like the eyes of like somebody else.
yeah.
And so I was like with sport and rec, like it's more, I don't know, able to translate easier and the career paths might be there more in that
Yeah,
kind of sense.
right.
And there's still ways to be like creative with it, like in terms of programming. So
Yeah, is there any reason why you chose like AUT specifically?
yeah, so AUT specifically, so I applied to Auckland Uni and AUT. I got into both of those reasonably similar.
Yeah.
Um, but with AUT, of course, like a big part of it was like with their scholarships and stuff, they don't take part of that scholarship and put it into you being in accommodation if you're not in like central Auckland. And so University of Auckland does that. And so I was like, if I get to go into AUT, not only does it seem more like that they do a lot of practical work experience
Yeah.
stuff, especially in terms of sport and recreation, like work experience is really key to getting anywhere because you need to be able to network and know people to really step foot and try and progress in sport and recreation. So I thought their work integrated learning and stuff looked really good,
Yeah.
and so that was another reason why I chose them.
Cool. So yeah, I guess next question is kind of like core papers. Like, is there like, like things that everyone has to study? Yeah, and how much is it? Is it like a semester or a year or?
So the first year, the layout of the degree is like the first year everybody does everything.
Okay, yeah.
So the first year you're pretty much mixing with any of the prospective majors or like standard pathway people,
Yeah.
which I actually found really good because you get a really good grasp of like getting to know everybody and you get to find out all the like different aspects to it. For the first year, they tend to do one paper at least that would correlate to like one of the different majors. And so
Oh,
you
right.
really
Yeah.
get
So
like
you
a
get like a
taste
taste.
of
Yeah.
everything. So for instance, I did like a sport and exercise science fundamentals that directly correlates to sport and exercise science. And that paper deals a little bit of the nutrition side as well.
Yeah.
They had like a sport and recreation and Aotearoa paper, which is like sport management-ish paper.
Yeah.
Even though it's like core, it kind of correlates to that, as well as like they have another paper which is like a leadership paper, and that's focused on like the outdoors and stuff. And the cool thing about that paper is generally you get to go on like a trip all together with
Yeah.
a group of like random people that you might not know at the start of it,
Yeah.
but you spend 3 days like really like outdoorsy. So we had like a 3-day tramp,
Cool.
and it was like in the Kaimais, and we
Yeah.
had such a great time of
Yeah, I
like just
remember you were
getting to
saying like
know
you
people.
guys like, was it camping or like cabins? Or, like, where did you stay?
No, it wasn't even cabins. It was
Oh,
like literally
tents.
perching like
Oh my
on tents on like the sides of
oh,
walkways.
wow.
So you had like an outdoor person with you, so it was
Okay.
like more safe and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And like one academic person who was like helping as well.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much just all of the students, and you have to do and plan it all together and then reflect on that experience. Because a lot of the outdoor papers are specifically, they want you to be able to reflect personally on your individual experiences there. And then second year, there's a few papers that are core. So you've got like an evidence-based practice, a group and individual behavior paper, and those are both correlate along the lines of like placement papers as well.
Okay, so would you mind just talking about like your majors and your minors and like what you're studying, like specifically?
Yeah, so my major is sport and exercise science and nutrition.
Okay, so
Basically the one with the longest name.
okay. Yep. And your minors?
I don't have a minor anymore. I did have or I was almost going to do a sport management minor, but one of the papers I would rather I switch it with like a exercise science paper. So I've dropped that minor, but I've been through most of the management papers, or a lot of the management papers. So I've got a bit of background there as well.
Okay, so you guys only need to have one major, like you don't need more.
Yes, yeah. So you choose a single major. You can double major if you like. If you double major, you have to do more placement hours as well, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure.
We'll just be like, everyone take this info with a grain of salt, like do your own research, before you actually make, decisions.
Yeah. No, definitely like look into the different like pathways and stuff, like, and it's completely fine to get like partway through and go, I would like to be in a different major. Because I know a lot of friends that have done that as well.
It's not like set in stone, Do you have like a favorite paper, or like what are like the highlights for you so far?
Oh, that's so hard. I like so many papers.
Yeah.
I loved the sport management paper. I
Okay.
thought the lecture on it is really insightful. You like learn a lot, but you learn a lot through like lecturers' stories kind of. And he was really good. He's still the head of that paper.
Yeah.
But he was really good at explaining it in a personal like story kind of way. And it was just so much more interesting and easier to learn the theory kind of side. So definitely the sport management paper. Probably I'm really enjoying athletic conditioning, which is like a third year exercise science kind of paper. And it kind of takes you through anything you would need to know in terms of strength and power and conditioning. And each week's like a different topic of a very like specific area and how to train people in that area. So like we had an entire week that was based on like sprinting and like speed and change of direction drills, which was just so interesting to learn, especially as somebody who doesn't necessarily do like team sport that much.
Right. Okay. Cool. Great. So yeah, you kind of touched on it before, but like, how exactly does like co-op work? And if you want, you can like share some of your like experiences.
Okay, so we have like work integrated learning placements, which are like 35-hour placements, and we have one each semester in second year. And so that's kind of like you can an experience with you have to have an experience with 2 different organizations, and from those generally you pick one that you want to do your co-op with, which is your kind of like 350-hour placement for an entire year over year 3, and it works out different for everybody. So generally you do 200 hours in first semester. They lowered that slightly because of the COVID lockdown stuff, but this semester is 150 hours. It would normally probably be 100, but just because of the lockdown stuff. But in terms of that, you generally like you'll send out CVs to people, or you'll get the like guidance for co-op because
Okay,
they
so
have a
you kind of
specific
have to find it
area.
yourself, but they'll help you like along the way.
Yes, yeah, they're really good at helping you. So they have like a specific help team for that. I actually, to get a placement, because I went to them in second year, I was like, I don't know what I'd like to do in terms of who I'd like to go placement with. Like, ideally it would be Athletics NZ, but I don't have contacts. I don't know who to contact and how to do it. And they fully explained, like, just like send your CV, say you're a placement student and you're this and looking for like a supervisor. And I managed to get a placement out of doing that, and had a really good experience with them, so came back for co-op. So yeah, it's just something you can't organize yourself.
Okay, so I've tried to think of I guess like questions that maybe people in high school would have. So like
Yeah.
do you think there's any useful school subjects, or like what did you take in year 13?
Okay, so I
If you
took,
remember.
yeah, this is a
Yeah,
little bit
let's
of a
like
throwback.
think back.
I took physical education.
Yeah.
So I definitely found that helpful because it
Okay.
kind of, it keeps you in the space of like learning a few key things such as
Yeah.
general basic anatomy, and it kind of has a little bit of like skill learning stuff as well,
Yeah.
which is quite helpful because that generally translates. Biology is good. I took biology.
Yeah.
First year has a human anatomy and physiology paper,
Yeah.
and anything like physiology.
Would you say like the sciences or not really?
Yeah, I mean, I think biology definitely, chemistry maybe, or like physics maybe.
Yeah, I
I
think it
didn't
would help, but
personally
it's not
take
like
them, but like they
required.
could be useful, especially if you're looking at exercise science, because they have more like physics stuff towards the end.
So there's not actually any like required subject.
I don't believe so. I think it's just your general UE.
Right, yeah. So as
And
long as
then
you get
maybe like
university,
English or
yeah,
like something, just making sure you pass NCEA.
yeah, like you know how to write.
Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is another question. I don't know, I just thought of these in my mind. But like
No, go.
I know you're like super into running, but say someone's not like, super fit, but they still want to do like a sport and rec degree. I guess, is there a lot of like physical assessments?
No, you
Like
will
not
be surprised when you walk into sport and recreation. People come from like all different
okay.
backgrounds. You really don't have to be necessarily as physically fit
You're like
and
a
like
pro
at the
athlete.
peak
Yeah.
performance, It's all about like wanting to help people improve in like some way or another in terms of like physical fitness or nutrition or that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that's pretty much it. I guess final question, like, yeah, if someone is like thinking of studying sport and rec at AUT, like, what would you say? Any advice or
Uh,
thoughts? Like, just go for
uh,
it. I don't know.
It's honestly, I've really enjoyed it. I think
Yeah,
you meet a lot of good people. Like, you meet a lot of like-minded people, especially doing it like, I'd say at school, like I kind of knew like a few like-minded people who are like interested in physical education, but not
yeah,
necessarily like to the same level.
yeah.
But it's really nice, like having, especially having first year mainly core. Like it's just you
Yeah,
get
you
to
kind
know
of like
everybody.
get to know everyone, because you're in the same class for everything.
Yeah, and then like by third year, you're like you just know most of the people in your degree,
Right.
and like I feel like that doesn't happen sometimes, just because we work so often like, in team projects and like first and second, like not like all the time, but enough that you know a lot of people as well. So yeah, it's just honestly it's been really good and really interesting. Like the content's really interesting.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. I guess just in case anybody has like any questions, are they able to contact you like through Instagram
Yes,
or?
feel free to direct message me on Insta or something along those lines. I'm more than welcome to take questions. I was in that stage when I was first applying, so like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I can help anybody with anything, I'm more than welcome. So, yeah.
Right. Cool. Thanks so much.
No
I guess we'll
worries.
just leave it here then.
Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. See ya.